Isn't this a beautiful flower? Did you know it's also a natural pest control? We're here today in Pacific Palisades, California to meet Andy Lopez. Andy's a specialist in natural pest control. Let's go meet Andy and see if we can talk him out of some of his secret recipes for controlling insects naturally. Well, I'll tell you, Andy, I'm looking at all these ingredients here, and I'm wondering if we're having lunch or if we're making insect sprays. What's happening here?
Well, one of the things you'll find in the garden and in your home environment is ants. Everybody's got an ant problem, okay, more or less. If you control your ant problems, you'll control over 75% of the problems in the garden.
Now, why is that?
Ants like to get into everything. You know, they do. They believe in the numbers. Ants are a very highly advanced society. I started into ants in the 6th grade. I bought an Uncle Malcolm's ant farm. You know what that is?
I remember.
Yeah, the little clear plastic thing. There's a label in there that says, "Send this for ants." And I said, I don't need to order ants. I got plenty of ants. That was the whole purpose of it, see? So in the 6th grade, that was a strange year for me. I mean, I started doing phys ed. Instead of doing phys ed, I got into a vegetable garden. I was the only male amongst all the ladies doing a garden. The guys thought I was up to something. I go, he's up to something, you know? And then that was the year I blew up my garage. I bought one of those chemistry sets, blew it up. It says, do not mix everything. I was in the mood of, it says, do not do, I did it. You know, wet paint, do not sit, I would sit, you know. And so I blew up the garage.
Is that how you became invisible? Well,
it's a starting process. And then I bought a beehive. I cut a wall in the kitchen, put a beehive in it with a clasp. Then somehow I decided I wanted to do the ant thing. Well, actually what happened was my mother was spraying Raid. Every week she would spray Raid. We were all, the 5 of us, and my dad, and my cat, and the ants, and everybody would sit in the front yard while my mom would be spraying whatever it was in there. I mean, I would see the ants. They're all been sitting there going, phew, in there, right? And I said, well, what is it the ants are looking for? Food and water. So I figured, well, I was just going to feed them. So I bought Uncle Malcolm's ant farm. On the other side of the kitchen, I cut a wall out, put the ant farm there. Well, immediately the ants started coming over to the beehive to steal the honey. And I started, you know, okay, so I had to teach them how to live in harmony together. And ever since then, I became an ant expert. Remember, this is in the 6th grade, and people would call me up, Andy, I want you to come over and help me control my ants. So I said, you know what you feed a 10,000-pound gorilla? Anything he wants to eat, right?
Right.
So ants actually outweigh a 10,000-pound gorilla. You know, I mean, if you actually, I don't know how they figured it out. They figured that it takes 1 million ants, dead ants, to make a pound. I don't know how they figured it out, you know. But
it's a job I wouldn't want.
Yeah, you know, so I started feeding the ants and see what they want. And I developed what I call ant cafes. All it is a little birdhouse.
Ant cafes.
I call them ant cafes. I used to call them ant bars. But I give talks in kids. I go to schools and I tell the kids to adopt an ant farm, learn about the ants. Because ants are very smart. They're smarter than human beings. They don't have homeless. They don't have wars. You know, if they do have a war, it's just some skirmish over this. Lately, you know, the ants used to fight each other. Now the ants are getting together. They have many queens working together. They have lawyers, doctors, farmers, you name it. They do, honest, I swear.
Lawyers?
Lawyers, everything. I don't know, it gets a little fetched, but I'm just saying they're a very advanced society, you know. They really are. They're very smart. And I swear that every month they have a meeting, say this is where the food is and this is where the stuff is. So I started feeding them. And all I'd done is I basically got a plastic cup, right? Put it inside, and part of the I call it Dances with Ants. It's in my first chapter of the book. Dances with ants. You remember the dances with wolf? You have to, how that person started to communicate with that wolf was the same thing with the ants. I tell the kids, I tell people, hey, it's alive, it has an intelligence. Just because you don't know what it's saying and he doesn't know what you're saying doesn't mean that we're not, you know, that something's not alive and it doesn't have an intelligence. You know how you get to a man? Through their stomach, right? It was the same thing with the ants. That's how you get their attention. There's 2 ways to get attention.
You invite them to the ant cafe.
There's 2 ways to get attention. You kill someone, you kill the ants, or you feed them. Either way, you're going to get their attention, okay? So I tell people, this killing thing has got to stop. We have to learn about how to live in harmony with things. And if certain pests get out of the hand, you want to get their attention, you know. So feeding them is what the ants are looking for. They're coming in the house for food and water, right? Right? So first thing we do, that's why we call it dances with ants. There are steps you have to take. People say, I want to go straight to step 5. It doesn't work. You have to follow them in a logical way. First step is you have to follow the ants and see where they're coming, where their trails out, how they're coming in your house, sort of observe them. And I swear you have to sort of be sneaky and look over.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they know you're looking, they disappear. I don't know if you ever noticed that, but as soon as you start, where'd they go? They're gone. One lady called me up and says, I'm whispering because they're listening in. I said, come over quickly. I came over, they were gone. So I said, look, go over to the store and call me from there and we'll sneak up on them. You know what I mean? It's really funny. I've been doing this for years. I said, one lady says they're swarming. There are massive lines. I said, walk around your block, and sure enough, it was a pest control company spraying. Because the ants will go from where there's chemicals to where there aren't chemicals. That's one of the problems. If you're not using any chemical and your neighbor's spraying, guess where they're going to go?
They're going to come to your
Over
house.
here, hang out. Says, hey, this is great. Smoke a cigar, whatever it takes. You see? Okay, so that's one of the problems. So basically, you want to feed the ants. Okay. In the beginning, I learned ants love honey. And from experience, I experiment, and I used to use other things. One day I used pancake syrup and had preservatives and stuff, and they wouldn't touch it. They won't touch anything that has preservatives, additive, food coloring. Maybe they know something, right? So they usually like honey. They're either into protein or honey. One of the products I buy is called Drax. 5% boric acid, mainly is apple mint.
Now, what does this do?
Well, the boric acid will kill them. The boric acid will kill them. One of the things that you have to learn is that if you have an infestation of anything, something's out of balance. Like with the ants. Whenever you have a billion, trillion ants, it's out of balance.
Something's wrong.
You have to reduce their population down. Okay. So at the same time, I teach people two things. Be considerate of other living things, and only kill as a last resort. Only as a last resort.